Alright, so before we get into the video, guys, good news. I just found a job working for a digital marketing firm, and it's going to be fully remote, so I'll be working from my home office, and it's not really going to impede on my ability to make videos. So I was able to start right away, and I'm looking forward to continuing and getting things rolling. Today is going to be the first day of posting at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and let's try to make that a daily routine again, guys. So make sure you're checking into the channel daily for the newest uploads. Now, getting into the video here, I have an NDFS, Non-Devotion Firesworn, and I made two different versions. If you guys want to play Classic Devotion, I can show you guys that one towards the end, but a couple things here, and the reason why I did it is because number one, I find Devotion suffers with consistency, and number two, I find Devotion suffers with control. So with this version here having Oneromancy, and Desirae's also an echo card, we have ways to really funnel out cards with Lady of the Lake. You guys know I really like this card. Not just because the art, but because the card's actually really good. And putting this in the deck gives us an option of pulling one of two echoes that we need and getting our deck thinned out quite nicely. Now, another thing that I have in here is Doreg, and I find that having a lock is quite useful, especially in a deck that lacks control. And with Syndicate, they don't have a faction-based lock card because Kurt no longer has lock, right? So with that being said, I just found that that was a really good fit. And of course, with the Devotion, maybe you go for something like the Junior, right? If I was to go Devo. However, in this case, I find Igni plays very well. A lot of opponents right now are cramming rows, and they're playing cards like the Triss Meteor Shower. So there's going to be a lot of units on a row with the same base power, and I just feel like cards like Igni really clean up in the meta right now. So again, that's something that I decided to go ahead and put in. And Ring of Favor being sort of a wild card, you could substitute Ring of Favor for something like the Gaidth Sword. I thought about doing an Gaidth Sword combo with the Operator for the Fallen Knight because we don't have Ulrich in a non-devotion version, and Ulrich is really good for making a copy of one of the Fallen Knights. But I decided to not do that. I think that Ring of Favor is really good because if the opponent contests us and really pushes in round one, it makes it uncomfortable and puts us in a situation where we're losing on even. We can jam this card at the end of the round and just boost up a token, whether it be one of the Firesworn Zealots or one of the Flaming Rose Footmans, and just have that boosted to like 20 points or something. And if it gets a heat wave, so be it. It trades pretty well. And if we don't get to use Ring of Favor, let's say the opponent passes because we've established a pretty good lead with Fallen Knights and the Bronze Firesworn package, then we get the free draw more or less, which is not so bad either, making sure that we get all the cards that we have in here. The only thing that I don't love about the deck is a little bit of the anti-synergy with Jacques not transforming into Jacques Grandmaster. So we're not getting that whenever you play a Firesworn gain 1 coin part, and we're not getting the Veil, but we're still getting the 12 points and the 3 bodies that are all Firesworn, which is completely fine for me. And, that is not really a huge game changer. I took out Ulrich because I felt like if we don't even get the boost by 2, it's a little bit slow of a play. And I found that this deck works really well, right? Damnation, being able to destroy an allied unit and create a 4 provision cost Firesworn unit higher, right, is really nice. So let's say we take a Eternal Fire Inquisitor and we eat whether it be a Flaming Rose Footman or a Firesworn Zealot, and it gets it to 8 power. Once it spawns the token to the right of it, then we can go and destroy it with Damnation and get 12 provisions, which would be another Hemmelfart. So we can do double Hemmelfarts with this deck here. We can always destroy a Zealot and get a Fallen Knight, which is really nice. And, we can take, let's say, something that is at 6 power, whether it's like the Reg Array after we use the deploy, or Fallen Knight +2, off 2 spawns, and we can actually get like another Halved. So a lot of really good options with that there, good ways to go wide with that. And because we have so many ways to go wide, I'm a little bit concerned of over swarming with this deck. So in both versions, I decided to put in one Lonely Champion with the rework here, being able to destroy all units on the row, boost self by the total amount with a cooldown of 2, and the fact that it has immunity is quite attractive because, again, if we go into round 3 with a couple congregations, if we want to play 2 of the Hemelfarts, if we have also the Sacred Flame spawning the Zealots, right, you can see how that all would just kind of get out of control. So there's that, right? But that's pretty much it here. Great synergy with Fallen Knights. They have Veil, so they can't be locked. They have Intimidate, so whenever we play a crime card, we're getting the boost by 1. And then whenever we spawn a unit on our side of the playing field, we're obviously getting the 1 boost as well. Because they have Veil, we can bring them back in 2 rounds with Hemelfart, so that's really nice as well. And, you know, just recycle that. So pretty much it, guys. The point of the deck, though, is to swarm the board with the tokens, whether they're Firesworn Zealots or whether they're Flaming Rose Footmen or just whatever else has a Firesworn tag, and then boost everything with the Sacred Flame, and then take the Disarray for a following boost, and we can repeat the Disarray twice because of the Echo. So there's that. I want to get into the second one real quick. This is just what I would do if I'm looking to do Devotion. So Ulrich comes in to make another copy of Fallen Knights or whatever else we need. Generally, it's going to be Fallen Knight, but as a backup, Cleric of the Flaming Rose are actually pretty good. Instead of Igni, I have Junior, which plays really well into Elves and a lot of things like that. We have one sort of Tall Punish, and then we have some Light Engine Punish as the spending. It's also another way that if we, you know, need something to spend coin on, we have that option. This version doesn't have Oneromancy, so we have Vivaldi Bank for consistency, being able to draw a card. I don't like this as much, but we need something in the place there, right? We have Furco as well instead of Lady of the Lake. You get 1 less base power here, but you're able to play a crime card. So you can't play Vivaldi, but you can play Disarray, you can play Damnation, XCOM, and, you know, all the other ones we have here like Congregation and Smuggle. So it's not half bad, right? And a little bit of a rework here in the mid-range, you know, 6 provision, give or take, right? Procession plays quite nicely in the deck. I originally opted to not go into that because it does play a little bit into Tall Punish, but it is a good value play. If I'm going Devotion, I think we just do it, right? So 12.6 provision, you can't go wrong. And Roderick DeWitt is not my first pick, but there's really not a lot here. You can see what I'm talking about. In this range, it makes the most sense to use something like the Roderick because you're getting 2 bodies off the get-go. And I looked at it this way. On deploy, it's 7 points, but you're getting 2 extra bodies for Sacred Flame, so it's 8-9. And then for Disarray, 10-11. So that's kind of the way that I valued it. Also, the spawn triggers the Fallen Knights, so you can see what I'm talking about. And it's a little bit less risky for Procession in a short round when we have Roderick. So again, there's that. If you're playing into a matchup with no control, you can greed this for 1 coin per turn, sure, right? So that's something to think about. But the rest of the deck remains the same. If I had to pick between the 2 guys, I honestly think that the non-Devotion one's stronger, okay? I think that this has the surprise factor. I think it has good control tools. I don't know why we're seeing 2 Ignis, but I'd probably recommend giving this one a try. I think it's pretty beginner friendly, and I got 5 games for you guys with commentary for reference. So if you're not familiar with how to play the deck or you need a bit of a refresher, I definitely recommend watching a game or 2 so you can just get started and get going right away. Now, I haven't finished placements with Syndicate, but I'm peaking right now at 24-15 after about 6 or 7 games played. So I would imagine that this could take you somewhere pretty good by the end of placements. Again, I just played enough games for the video, but I can tell so far that we've played against a lot of Renfree matchups and things that I think you're going to see a lot of, in this deck held its own and felt pretty comfortable. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you enjoyed the video that you see today, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 12k subs, and hopefully we can get there by the end of the week. But for now, let's get into the content. Alright, so first up here we got Monsters Blood Scent, and if I had to guess what variation of vampires it would be, It's probably going to be the Renfrey because over the last few seasons, it's just been the most popular, so... You don't want to have a Jacques in hand round 1, so I go and take the mulligan there, right? Playing it round 1 trades down pretty bad. I like having crime cards in hand when we play the Fallen Knights, and most of the hand here looks like something that we could just play, right? Get a lot of value from. So starting with the Fallen Knight is nice because if it is vampires, I'm expecting they only have maybe one tool in the deck to remove that right away, and that could be like a Toad Prince. In this case, it looks like they're just looking for something to get started for them instead of dealing with that. Okay, that's interesting. Again, you don't really have to worry too much here because they could lock it, but they won't kill it from bleeding, right? Because we can trigger it every single turn. And we can get 2 procs per turn on the Fallen Knight if we play a crime card like the Smuggle, which we can play after, you know, using the last coin here, so it works out quite well. This is a tough one because obviously they're going to go wide with the bleeding. We're trying to go wide with the units. It doesn't work out too well for us, but we can go and get some immediate value here from flipping the Zealots, right? Eventually they're going to have to start putting bleeding on the Zealots, and that's where we're going to get good trades. Taking the Inquisitor here, eating the 3. Again, we just have a lot of ways to answer these, you know, bleeding effects. Mind you, we're getting the spawns from the Inquisitor at the end of the next turn. We have bleeding on 2 things at this point, plus whatever they play here, so it'll be 4. It's probably starting to look like time to consider getting out of the round. We do have Ring of Favor to help us out a little bit, but I'd like to save Igni if possible, right? Because Igni's going to be the answer to the Regis at the end of the game. So that confirms it. Renfrey, I had some suspicions here when I saw the Rune Mage and when I saw the Roach, but now just it feels like something I just have to win here. You know, I don't mind doing this because we went pretty wide so far, and I have the Ring of Favor, and if I have to, I could take the first disarray, so it works out quite well. I guess they decided that once Sacred Flame went down, they bled out enough, but I think we're in a pretty good spot. Disarray is great, but it's not like the only win condition, right? It's just something that helps. It's almost like a win more. That's a good hand, right? Jacques round 3 is kind of what we want. It doesn't transform because this is the non-devotion version. It's basically the 3 bodies, and then, you know, everything else is good. We just got to get the board as full as possible, right? Got to decide if it's worth bleeding here. I look at the hand and I say, well, it's kind of all gold cards, you know, full leader, the coin, like... I know long round for them is really bad for us. We just draw our cards, we just do well, right? Take the Fallen Knight out. These play for so many points. Kind of annoying how we got that locked. It would have been nice to take out the second Fallen Knight, but you know, it is what it is here. I can literally go and get like a second serious if I wanted to. Okay, little trick here. It seems like a liability, but it's not that bad. You can go take Damnation on the Fallen Knight, bring the Cyrus back. I know that they don't have another lock, so, you know, it gets extra bodies out here, right? And then if they don't check it, then we're just in pretty good shape here. I want to go with the one click just in case they've been holding out and they have a Toad Prince that they just didn't want to use or something. There's the Renfrey.
Yeah, it's Batiste. Go ahead, feel it.
So that's pretty much most of the deck. I'm just now concerned about what they roll, obviously, on, you know, the RNG side of things, and then what the Regis is going to be at by end game, and if we have last say to basically defend it. We need last say, and, you know, we need them not to play around in Igni too. It's got to be 20 points, right? Because if it's like a 13, 16 point Regis, it just won't work. I'm still feeling pretty comfortable here because we have such a big tall punish with the Geralt, and then we have the extra reach that's just massive with the Disarray. So them going in here, it's not a big deal. Squirrel's kind of slow. I'm just thinking about, okay, this is probably it, you know?
He venerates not the fire. You, yes, you. Have you made your offering?
So we got the 2 coins. We're not really taking them with us. Might as well get a couple flips, get the extra points here, go take the Disarray, and then, you know, Igni's one of those things that we can decide on. And then we got space to play. There was consideration to just fill up the entire board first, but I think this is fine actually, just in case we have to play it.
I'll do what I can.
So if I go on the back row here, we remove a 10. Which is actually not even bad, because I don't think that it's enough points with Regis after Renfrey's been used here to get it done. So this should just be a 2-0. And of course they have an Igni as well. 12 points there, 55, 30. Again, they're not doing more than that. Regis didn't get the full value here, so we just go ahead and we take it. And next up here we got monsters again, and it's Overwhelming Hunger. So I know that our deck takes a little bit of time to get started, but it puts out a lot of points by late rounds. And I know that Overwhelming Hunger, whether it's V or just classic Death Witch, which I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of lately, then they're able to put up a lot of points quickly, but then they start to fizzle out because they don't have a lot of engines, right? It's mainly going to be the just deploy or the consume effects that we're going to be running into. As far as consistency goes, I think this hand's good. And if we do get in trouble here, Ring of Favor is really going to save us. Opening up with something like the Disciple just always feels pretty comfortable. Again, getting the Fallen Knight down as early as possible is good. Make sure that you put down the Fallen Knight before you go and take your spawn off the Disciple. Otherwise, you're going to be losing a lot of value there, right? I'm just going to try and crack this drink open. If you guys hear it, it's really cold. It's been a while since I've seen Fiend. Okay, so right away I'm looking at this like it's not some conventional deck, right? Fiend is something that makes sense with Deathwish, but the Crones don't. So it's kind of a red flag, right? You start to think, okay, what is it gonna be, right? We're getting pretty good trades for gold cards, though. Like, seeing 2 Crones come out in exchange for a few bronzes, right? It feels pretty good. And we're still ahead, so not all bad here. I don't want to spend them all. If we get a pass right now, we go in the next round with 3 coin, which is pretty good. So. Okay, Bridge Troll. Deathwish Relics. Just need it all now. Tough part is, there's certain cards we can't play in round 1 with this deck. Sirius is one of them. You know, Jacques is another. Something like this is great, because this is actually establishing carryover for later. I'm trying to create a bit of a gap so we can maybe tempo pass here too. So the Inquisitor getting the spawn of the 3 points at the end of next turn, plus the boost onto the Fallen Knight because of the spawn, is going to be a nice little swing there. And I went and I took the Lady of the Lake into the Oniro. You know, just because I wanted to get that thin started. We can get Disarray next time. And so that should just be enough to get it. So I don't think we really committed a whole lot here. We got 2 carryover cards with the Fallen Knight and the Inquisitor off the Cirrus later. We got the Oniro thinning some things out. I see a few gold cards left in deck, but we have the Excommunication as well, which is going to really help. So again, just another situation where it feels like we've got it all. I don't know if we're going to go wide enough here to make the Lonely Champion get enough value. This is not bad at all, because look, Disarray won't brick because we have Oniro in hand and Lady of the Lake's been played, so we don't have to worry about that. I just think the Inquisitor can probably go and fish for another gold card. Opt to not take it here, but you know, it's one of those things where it kind of just depends on how they answer. Also, having the Inquisitor here with the Damnation's kind of nice, because we know with the Inquisitor it's going to get up to 8 points, which would ultimately give us another Cirrus. So that's kind of the attractive part of it here. Play around a Maruna, play around a Toad. With the Fallen Knight, we get the extra boost, right? They could still do that for the Hemmelfart, but
Mankind is a virus, a plague. Shall you wander until the end of days,
kind of just deciding what the best plan to do here is. I think thinning is pretty good. You know, extra bodies, extra room. We have the first Echo on the Disarray. You know, make sure you play Congregation on the same row as the Firesworn Zealots. Don't play it on a row that doesn't have them, because you don't get the full 3, right? Yeah. They're not really going to get a good Deathwish ability off of this Rot Fiend, because there's so many 2s on the board, right? And you know, the chance of hitting that Fallen Knight small to begin with, but if they don't, then they hit the Sirius, which is still not very good. So it's a Ridialist, okay. Makes sense why we saw crones and weird stuff like that early on. To me, it just looks like we should, yeah, lock the only thing that's, you know.
Come to me.
What's nice is that they're stacking the row and it's setting up for an Igni, but it's about finding a way to somehow get them to, like, match or have multiple units the same power. It's going to be tough. If I take away the, yeah, Direg Array right now, Halvid's going to be the only pull. We get the huge spawn off. Yeah, it just makes sense. We fill the whole board. And we got to make sure that if we get the Tall Punish, then it doesn't put us in a situation where we are losing.
This positively reeks of heresy.
Make a little bit more space on the road just in case, right?
Yes, you. Have you made your offering?
I just don't have the room for anything else. Maybe it wasn't worth playing the... It just depends on how you bleed into the round. It might not be worth playing that. Like the extra spawn. Just because now we can't play Igni the same round. You know what I mean? I think it's still fine. If for whatever reason we are able to fit down the Igni, I want to have the 9s out there so at least we have a really good target on the row. Again, overswarming by clicking leader once is something that you just don't do. So I should have just like kept it so that we'd get the spawn, but then we'd have the space for the Igni. Fortunately though, we have really good reach because they just used Maruna twice. So would have been really cool if the Ekamara was on the front row and had the clean 18, but I'm looking at the situation here like we just have to try, right? 18 points at hard removal. You know, I triggered Death Wish, so it's actually 18 less 4. Still better than just 9 by itself, right?
Yeah, it's Matisse.
Now they might get a really big swing here. If they get damage all, it's huge. That's the kind of luck I need, you know? We're talking about 17 points of damage. Well, 16 because the armor and then the artifact, right? Look at that, 16 points of damage plus the 6. They have 1 card to do it. Is it enough? 2 at the end of the turn as well. So the lock that we did there actually saves us, and we get it by 1 point. Beautiful. Moving on to the next one here, we have Line Pocket Syndicate. So it's going to be nice to see how we perform in a Syndicate matchup, right? Especially more of a control-based Syndicate. If it's poison dominant, then it's not too big of a deal unless they have Purifies, because we have the Fallen Knights, but if it's like just hard removal, then this could be tough for us. Always trying to see if I brick my echoes, you know? Again, not holding Cirrus because I anticipate that they're going to be playing long into the round. eventually we'll run out of coins, so I figured we just play the Fallen Knight first, make it a little bit awkward if they're trying to remove things. You know,
What do you
so
think,
they have
Gwent?
2 engines,
It
we have the
matches
1.
your
So you have a couple choices here. You either look to remove something, or you look to just basically match that pace. So I could go and I could lock one of the tax collectors, or not, the townsfolk rather, and then that's the thing. Or you could just basically put down another engine. In our case, it would be the Disciple. I think it's just a lock.
Our world.
I've played this game enough times, you know, these cards get up to 20-30 points if left unchecked, if it's like the Horde crazy deck, you know? It's just a little tough to deal with. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that.
An austere life is a virtuous life.
So, I go Congregation here because we get the extra point for the Intimidate, right, when we play a crime card, and then we get the extra bodies for the spawn, so it makes Fallen Knight that much more difficult to remove with the Tunnel Drill, because if they play a crime card the same turn, then the drill gets activated and gets the bonus damage. So now they have to make enough coin to be able to afford, you know, 6 or whatever to remove the Fallen Knight. Plus, it keeps the Disciple out of removal reach, right? It makes it more difficult to remove that, because it's a 3, it's easy to remove. Okay, you see what I see, right? Ah. If they just left it at 9 each, that would have been perfect. So you have to look at the situation here. Roach and Knickers both played for tempo, like auto-summoned. They have Drill out of the way, and the Townsfolk play, which are 2 6 provision cards. I think that this is a lot spent from the opponent, and for us, we didn't really do a whole lot. It's one of those things where I don't want to be tempo passed on, and it's unfortunate because, you know, just against this control-heavy matchup, and you'll see it, it's hard to get the Ring of Favor value, but it's really good against the engine decks. So we just get the draw instead in this one, but I think it's just fine. And at least if they decide to go and bleed here, which they do, we have, you know, the means to defend with the card advantage, and they spent half of the leader, which is pretty nice. I just don't know how we deal with that defender. Not a lot we can do, but usually when someone puts down a defender, it means they're looking to bleed. So you have to sort of respect that and get the engines out early. Most of the Syndicate line pockets decks that I'm seeing are going to be the Golden Necker variants, and this one shows all the signs of that, so it just makes sense to go and just get some tempo up here so we're not left chasing and giving them back card later. So they're almost past the point of no return where we can really just try to penalize them for spending more cards than they needed to here, right?
Bribe off the mages and their foul magicry.
Again, pretty comfortable lead. They do have a lot of coin. We just hope that they over profit in a couple situations, maybe have a couple unlucky draws here, and you know, it should be pretty good. We're also kind of setting up for Igni, depending on how they play it, right?
You are worthy neither of mercy nor
You
forgiveness.
could just use a smuggle here, it's fine. Again, we're still playing bronze cards. I think we're still getting really good trades. Like, if we get out of this round, I feel like we're going to have most of their decks spent.
Best commodity in town, I swear it.
We're getting closer to that point where Igni's looking good, but there's many ways they can ruin that if they poison. You see what I mean? There's a 6 now. And I've been liking this trick quite a bit. Taking the, I don't have to do it just yet, but taking the damnation off the Fallen Knight feels pretty good, you know? Just if you're struggling to get extra bodies on the playing field, it's a little bit slow up front, but when you have the space to do it, it also plays around Tall Punish a little bit, you know? Now, if they poison that out same turn, then they're good, but otherwise we could just bring it right back.
The eternal fire. Yes, you. Have you made your offering? This positively reeks of heresy.
Again, a little bit safer to do it this way than to basically do it with the Fallen Knight, just because they already had the one poison on it. Fallen Knight's protected, so it just makes sense. This is probably the best Geralt I've had in a while, right? This is kind of why I put Igni instead of Heatwave or something like that, so we get their engine out of the way, and then we get their carryover out of the way on the same turn. Now we're sitting up 20 points. And that was one of our first major commitments, right? Cirrus was 1, this was 1, Damnation was, again, relatively big, but it wasn't horrible. And I don't think that they can do much else here but to pass, right? Either they jam Golden Necker and just do the whole thing, or, yeah. So we're sitting pretty close to a full bank here, right? Like, it's like half on the round 3 start. We get the disarray. So we got both echoes. You can put one back in the deck, so we get the 3 extra points. I don't think we need the champion. We have the excommunication.
In the Order's name, I confiscate these goods.
So with XCOM and with the Oniro, we pretty well drew all our golds because we get the disarray off of the Lady of the Lakes, so it feels pretty good. That's pretty sweet. I like how we have sort of a way to get things started here, and then, you know, I can flip these tokens, and then I could take the Inquisitor and get some extra value there. It just sucks because I'm expecting that they get the same turn poison here on the Inquisitor. It's kind of one of those things where we don't want to see. Just use our coins here if we can. Also because if the best target that they have is the cleric in the back row, then, you know, let's use the coin before they remove it. Cockstein's an awkward one, because if I go tall on the Fallen Knight, then they can actually finish the poison. Yeah, you see. But it did cost 2 coin to make it happen. So now it's just less of a priority to get the Fallen Knight large. It'll just happen, but...
The tongue could conceal the truth. The eyes never.
We'll just direct their focus maybe onto something else. It might feel tempting to take excommunication there off the Fallen Knight, but I wouldn't recommend doing something like that. Make them work for the poisons that they have, otherwise they'll just direct the focus onto something else, and we just lost a bunch of points from it, so... It's better just to take excommunication off the leader charge that we use.
Have you made your offering? You are not worthy of the fire's purity, not worthy of its light.
Now, if you really wanted to play that, I guess, the proper way, or the best way, you'd likely just take the Oniro first, right? Because then you thin it out more, you increase the probability of getting what you like, but again, streamer luck's the thing. But yeah, do it that way. So take Oniro, get the thin, take excommunication, then, you know, you're gonna have to take disarray after, but it's fine. Now it's close, but I don't think it's close enough, right? We get the click there.
Yes, you. Have you made your offering?
It's just gonna be Jacques. A few extra bodies is basically why we have the Jacques and a backup spender. I think instead of going taller, we just maybe flip a token into a Flaming Rose. I mean, it doesn't really matter though, because we have last say. So they are 1 poison short. It would have been really nice for them if they had a second way, because the morale just kind of sits there. But you can see here, look, we've got the disarray and we have the Sacred Flame. So we're putting up like close to 30 points here in 1 turn. And they know it too. So that's pretty much it, right? Moving on to the next one here, you're going to see this a lot. We have Imprisonment. What happens when we're playing against a lot of locks? Well... It's hard to determine what you want to have in round 1. I know a leader charge takes away the disciple. Inquisitor also becomes a lot less attractive because it doesn't feel like it's doing a whole lot here. But I guess if we're able to bait out 1 leader charge with something as simple as like an Inquisitor for provision, I think that's not bad. Now, this is an example of a deck where I think that the Ring of Favor would be a good thing to have in the deck, right? Like the matchup, because they start off aggressive with Point Slam, but then they sort of fizzle out because they don't have a lot of engines in this run-free Point Slam list. So I have both of mine going here, and, you know, eventually we can sort of close the gap a little bit, and then Ring of Favor could make for a lot of points with the disarray as well. So it all depends. A lot of times they're running Triss Meteor Shower, they play it on range, they boost the whole melee row, which I'm sure we're going to be seeing something like that with here. And if they set that up, we can't match that for this round.
Hark, brothers. These are the words of scripture.
But if you know, staying 10 to 15 points, it's really not that bad. $24-point lead. We have the 1 coin and then the 1 flip, which is 3. So I think it can keep us in the round for a little bit longer. I want to put out some leader charge bait here just to see if they'll take it, you know? It gets really nasty if they carry over Renfrey and their original leader into round 3. But seeing Triss here, that feels like one of the best things we could possibly see. Although I don't get to get my Ring of Favor value, because they just pass on it, they're up by about 40 points here. It's literally a huge part of the big play out of the way. So Triss got a nerf to 13 provisions, gone. We have the 2 times Renfrey's gang, both at 6, and then the Lydia at 9 provisions, whereas we just spent a few bronze cards. So to me, that's worth a round loss, I think. Very common behavior from the Renfrey matchup, right? Just a lot of just slamming cards and not really thinking about late game. So we have to expect that we're going to be bled here, because most often Renfrey is going to try to bleed, right? And this is a matchup where they could get pretty good value from bleed, because, again, point slam, they put up a lot of points in maybe 3 or 4 turns. They have us playing in, trying to catch up, so. Seeing a Blightmaker come down on an empty board is kind of nice, right? They lose the 2 points of damage they could have done, which is literally more than 2 points, because if it's a Firesworn token, then, you know, factor in Sacred Flame boost, Disarray boost. I think we're just supposed to play Fallen Knight here.
Halt! In the Order's name, I confiscate these goods.
In the old days of Gwent, I'd feel bad about this play, putting down a Fallen Knight getting passed on, but in this new Gwent, right, it's kind of what you want to see. So I'm looking at that like an opportunity carryover. As long as we can resurrect that before maybe they take like a banish or some sort on it, we're good. Let's get the Echo back. We have the Oniro in hand, right? Always take Lady of the Lake on a pass when you haven't taken an Echo yet. I find it just feels good, right? It guarantees that we're getting no bricks with the Echoes and her round 3, and it makes sure that we're getting a bit better probability of getting our gold cards. You see what I mean? My top decks are looking pretty nice here. And if you look at what we're missing, like there's a little bit still, but we have a couple ways in hand alone to deal with that. 2 congregations, kind of scary. Even one of them I don't think we need in round 3. Just worried about the overswarm, also worried about the cleric getting locked. I think that's just fine. Because you can't really overswarm if you don't swarm enough to begin with. So let's say I don't get Helvied, then we kind of want to have that congregation, and I think the right play is to go and pull the Cirrus with the Onero, right? I don't know. I think Nausicaa, the way it used to be, was still pretty good. I like how they made a neutral card do that so it's more playable. But this 10 points, like with the condition of just letting the opponent get around, is not really like, I don't know, 10 for 5 is kind of crazy when it's that consistent. Terrified here that they're going to make us overswarm, right? They have spying units, whether it's Joachim, whether it's the Roderick, whether they have informants or emissaries. Like, there should be just, you know, maybe not all of those, but at least one of those in the deck. Roderick here in this case. These spaces make a difference because we have artifacts that aren't really helping us, you know, a lot of different things like that, so... Couple cards I want. Damnation's pretty good. It's probably going to be Helvied that we pull, but Lonely Champion's also kind of smart because then it prevents this from being a problem.
Yes, you! Have you made your offering?
Kind of have to take it turn by turn here, see how they play. Maybe they remove some things.
Obedience or the lash?
Also, too, with Lonely Champion, you want to get the swarm payoff, but you also need to make sure you're not over swarming. So there's a tough part, like when to use it and when to not. I like the fact that it has the order instead of just a simple deploy. That change was massive. 17-point removal feels terrible. And not only do they do that, but we also get like another just 1-point card on the row that we just don't want. You know what I mean?
Alone shall you wander until the end of days, cursed and shut upon.
Helvied spawns too much, Congregation spawns too much, so it's got to be something like Damnation. It's not really going to do a lot off the Cleric, but we could definitely do something like the Procession or a Fallen Knight. In this case, I think Fallen Knight's worth more points, just because we have the Disarray, we've got the spawns off pretty well everything else, so... Let's see the math on it. Looking at it right now.
They'll pay for my stolen
The 1 spawn off the Inquisitor, the 2 spawns off the Jacques is 3. We have the Disarray, which is 4, and then we're not going to count the boost because everything would have gotten it. So it's 8. Okay. Procession's actually better. but it plays more into Tall Punish. I guess it doesn't really matter that much anymore. But yeah, I would say maybe just take Procession next time. What I do like about this here is that it's looking like they're running out of punish. It's also looking like we're not going to overswarm because we've got the Inquisitor and then we've got, like, you know, only a couple units left after that. And with the Inquisitor we're removing a unit too, so a lot of this game relies on how they stack their rows. It would be nice if we can get another 10 for the Nausicaa, but it looks like we might not, right? It also doesn't really look like I have much to lock here. Most of the stuff they're playing is deploy.
The kitchen presents its finest yet.
It's kind of one of the things we just play. If I get a death blow opportunity, then we obviously go for it so we can boost the Direct Array, but I really want to try and optimize this this Igni and get the best one possible, right? Just lock whatever, I think, at this point. Out of spite. Because they went and blew Triss early, I think we're doing pretty well. Okay. If they didn't have the Renfrey passive, that would have been the 20-point Igni. I'm thinking this is just going to be the best opportunity that we have to play it. So we'll go ahead, take the 12 there, and we should just be fine. Again, we're not getting Death Blow with the Disarray, so we're missing 2 boosts with this one here, and then another 2 boosts with the Sacred Flame. But it's really not that big of a deal because the rest of the board is crammed, so. Wow, that's a big removal. Okay, so now we just have to do what we do. 75 to 63, do they have it? Nope. There we go, another big win. And moving on to the last one, here we have Pincer Maneuver, and it's Northern Realms. So many Renfrey games. Jacques goes back round 1. Lady of the Lake set up for Oneromancy. 2 Fallen Knights, really good carryover. I don't think Igni's super necessary here. I still don't know exactly what they're playing, but when I see this leader now, I just think it's Renfrey. The Renfrey gang spam, otherwise Priestess deck, or if someone's just having fun, Royal Guards, I guess. And you already know, if they go ahead with that first, chances are it's going to be the copy of that, right? So I'm expecting us to get a lot of good value from the lock. Because if they're playing full test, just trying to print a million copies of that, We have the answer to it in one card. I would imagine that they do have a Purify, though, if they're running something that's so contingent on, you know, one combo or play working. And there it is here. So, yeah, we got to deal with that immediately.
Mankind is a virus, a plague.
The tough part here, too, is that we have to go first. And, you know, if we lose round 1 on even, they're just going to force it and really try and just 2-0. So it's an awkward situation to be in for us. But at the same time, too, if we went second, their tempo up front is very hard to deal with for Firesworn because, again, they can put up the points quickly. We need the long round. They won't give us the long round. So they got Triss Butterflies. I'm thinking that they're probably looking for a way to purify that. So we have to do what we can with the time that we have here. I think just because the 2 Firesworn Fallen Knights are out there, it just makes sense to just try and jam rows and get enough tempo to pass if we need to. There's the Peller. 30-point Peller. That's all the answer that I have for that. So now we just have to rely on Igni carrying the rest of the game. Unfortunately. It's hard for them to play around Igni because it's going to be a full row of 6s, and 6 is a high enough base power that I don't think like anything else is going to pass that in their deck. Especially since they did take Triss and it's 7 power now on the Peller, and it's already played.
Diplomacy is dignified work. My arse.
But this is the spot that you kind of want to be in here. Like if you look at 15-point lead, give or take, right? Ring of Favor keeps climbing, so even if they do decide to bring out all the Renfri's gang, we have an instant rebuttal with the like the 20-point swing we're about to have.
A witcher with no honor is no brother of mine.
Kind of running out of things I can play here, right? We don't really want to use all of our payoff, but thinking of whether I should take a Finn or a Ring. And you know, a lot of times you don't really see the opponent passing in this type of matchup. So it's tough to want to play the Ring early, you know? 15 points is just like, it's good, but it's not exactly where it can be. So running out of time here, gotta play something. It just makes sense to go and take Lady, I guess. Go for the Finn. Actually, don't even mind just Disarray here. Problem is, if I play Ring first, they can keep playing in. If I take Disarray here, it could provoke, you know, a pass from them. But we got to keep in mind here that they have a lot of copies of these Renfri's gang in their deck, and card advantage in this matchup doesn't mean a whole lot, so gotta be careful. So I decided to pass here, and it's really just because their row is almost full on melee. So if they bring out the gang, they've got 3, 6, so they got 3 spots. But I wasn't really thinking about how much points the click on the Erlin would actually be, and if they do it. So 21 point Erland, it's kind of nutty. Luckily though, we see an Igni from them. But you know, I think we could have just maybe stayed in that a little bit longer, played the ring. So, benefit for us is that they might have a really bad hand, given that they've really clogged up their hand and they haven't been able to, you know, get those gang thinned out. But tough part is, like, we have to literally go right into Igni if they play it, and just hope that that's enough. $18 cards in deck after the draw. They have 1 leader too, so that can pretty well guarantee the Pavetta. I'm setting up for the Inquisitor. I'm also really trying not to have to go and do anything else. Like, I don't want to play Jacques. I think Jacques' going to be good in a short round. And so, yeah, they got what they need. So I'm thinking that that's got to be the Pavetta, right? And if they drew the Pavetta, then they can't play all the way down. So we keep card. But they could have also greeted it. And that's why they gave Veil to the Envoy, potentially, so they can maybe draw it. It's actually not looking too bad though, right? Yeah, okay. That's what I'm talking about. 3, 6, 7, 8. And then so it's either Triss and Pavetta. It's tough. If it's Triss and Pavetta, then they would use the Pavetta as soon as I take the Igni.
You are not worthy of the fire's purity, not worthy of its light.
So it's almost like you gotta make them think that they have it, you know? Because if they just play it for points, then we can win the game. So Cohen, something that I didn't expect. Again, it looks like they're going all in, as they should, you know, with us giving the impression that we just don't have the reach, right? And if it's Triss on the back row, then we are able to fill up and just remove all those Because they'll be at, what, 9? Yeah. And just because we can click it, right, we don't need to use the coin. We don't have to spend the last card. We're able to defend card, keep a couple leader charges there. I don't think it was too bad. I could have maybe even saved Jacques, but again, I think we're just good. They have to put them back in the deck and find a way to draw them. They spent Triss already. Envoy's already... I don't know how they would do it from here. I guess they can use like a Griffin Witcher or something like that and like draw and put something back. Let's go with like 25 unconditional points. I don't know. Even after the Renfrey nerf, I find Renfrey still playable. So they didn't completely kill Renfrey in the whole type of deck, but I think it's still pretty strong. Play a bronze from hand and draw a unit of choice. We're done. If you look at a situation like this, I mean, they get what they need.
In the Order's name, I confiscate these goods.
Yeah, I gotta play something. It's gotta be the cleric, because we get the extra intimidate points off of the smuggle, right? So the fact that it was a royal guard, it doesn't work, because if they have Pavetta, okay, the Istrid's coming down, but it still doesn't work, because if they Pavetta last, they don't get to play what they, so we actually caught them. Right? So take that, get the intimidate, go for the... Actually, it doesn't really work out for the Fallen Knight, but at least we get the extra spawn value here. And we get the disarray extra value. I think that's just fine. It's got to feel bad for them, but I don't feel bad for them. You know what I mean? It's a really annoying deck to play against, and to be able to come out and take the win here feels really good. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. Stick around for new videos coming this week, and I've got some other ideas that I'm looking forward to. So take it easy, and I'll see you then.